What was the most petty thing an adult did to you when you were younger? I was in middle school at a friend's sleepover. Her parents were very strict. She and her siblings got pulled out of public school to go to a Catholic school, were homeschooled in high school, and they scared the hell out of me. Anyway, it was probably like 11 PM at this sleepover, and her mom hesitantly let us watch the Disney movie Zenon, Girl of the 21st Century. I laughed at her part, and even though her parents were awake, they came into the living room to scold me for being too loud. Not long after, I took a drink of water, choked, and started coughing. They called my parents after 11 PM to come pick me up because I couldn't behave. They had no regard for them being asleep and having jobs to get to early in the morning. They wanted me out for laughing and coughing in the span of about 10 minutes. My parents never let me stay the night at her house again and are still mad at them for doing that almost 20 years later. Sounds like they just didn't want you there and were trying to come up with an excuse to send you home. If they were that hesitant to let them watch a really tame Disney movie, they probably saw her as an unknown, outside evil. When I was young, my mum was best friends with one of the neighbors down the street, who also had a boy the same age as me. As a result, I played a lot with said boy and was encouraged to be best friends with him. Whenever my mum wasn't around though, his mum was a complete bitch to me. She would come out to where we were playing together and shout at me for some minor trivial thing. If we were both doing something bad, only minorly bad, we were not bad kids, she would blame it all on me and never reprimand her son at all. This was all when I was like 7-10 years old, and so I couldn't process it at all and had no idea how to react, and it really got to me. I found out years later she was basically jealous because I was doing much better at school than her son and she wanted to take me down a peg. Ultimately, the son and I ended up going to different secondary schools and drifted apart, which meant that fortunately I stopped having to interact with her. Our mums are still good friends, and she has always been pleasant to me as an adult. She even did the flowers at my wedding, but even 30 years later I still keep her at arm's length because of how unfairly she treated me as a child. My parents were weary of other PPL and would never do something as reprimand someone else's child. They'd rather openly shout at us, even when we were not at fault. Later they'd explain that you have no authority over others and should look only at your own. I found it really unfair as a child, but ultimately made me a better person. Yeah, my parents were the same, as were the parents of all my other friends. This is why even as a 7-year-old, her behavior stuck out to me as unusual/unfair. In middle school, I was in the hallway during class, as I was an office aide and had a free pass to be in the halls for deliveries, and I was casually kicking this pen cap that was on the floor on my way back from a delivery. This teacher comes over and berates me for a few minutes about kicking the pen cap, about how disrespectful it was, about how I had no pride in my school or keeping it clean. Mostly he just wanted to scream. I bent down very slowly without breaking eye contact, picked up the pen cap, then said, "I picked it up." He flew into an even bigger rage, screaming, telling me I was never going to amount to anything, demanding my hall pass. I showed him my office aide badge, and for some reason, that was the final straw. "You are an office aide. This is not the pride that an office aide should have," he screamed, emphasizing my title, as if I had failed the nation. He escorted me back to the office, screaming the entire way, and parked me in front of the receptionist, who was my supervisor during office aide hours. "Tell her what you did," he said. "I kicked a pen cap," I said. "I mean the whole thing," he said, face red, veins popping from his forehead. "That's the only thing that happened," I said. He seemed to realize that now he was in the presence of a fellow adult and couldn't keep screaming like he had been. The tiny fraction of his personality that was capable of self-analysis and shame surged just enough to get himself under control. He muttered some things about my terrible attitude and left. I never had him as a teacher. I never knew what his name was or what he taught, and only saw him once more when he came into the office at the end of the semester, spotted me, and smugly asked, "I hope your attitude has improved since the last time I saw you." I rolled my eyes and gave an insincere, "Yep, sure has. Thanks for turning my life around." He made some more hurtful comments about how I was never going to amount to anything and left. I never found out his name. But I wonder how sad his personal life must have been. How little control must you have in your life if you take a job in a middle school just so you can power trip on children. And that's when you take a pen cap out of your pocket, drop it on the floor, and kick it towards him, all while maintaining eye contact. I normally try and give people the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, that's an absolutely peen way to act, but maybe he was already pushed to the edge that day. But to keep making snide comments later on, even after realizing he blew up over nothing, that's just ridiculous. The best response / comeback I ever heard when somebody tells you you'll never amount to anything is to lower your head slightly and clearly state, yeah, I'll probably end up just like you. Or indirectly to me, but when I was graduating high school, my aunt asked me which of my late grandfather's rings I'd like as a graduation gift, along with a card / a little cash. I told her I really appreciated the offer, but jewelry just isn't my thing, and that I felt like it would be wasted on me. I do have other items passed down from him. She said okay, no problem, and I thought that was that. Graduation came and went, and a couple weeks later a few family members are over for dinner. Well, I'm standing talking to another aunt, her sister, and she walks over to us and hands me a little box. At this point I know what it is, and even though I had respectfully declined before, I decide I'm going to open it and give a wow, great thank you. I open the rings box, and before I can get a word out, the aunt I had been there talking to absolutely loses it. Are you kidding me? You give that ring to him? Yelling at her, yelling at me, making a huge scene. Guess that ring specifically was one she had made known she wanted. I looked to my aunt who gave me the ring and she just couldn't hide the little smile on her face. So the extreme pettiness was really between my two aunts, and I felt like I was basically set up / used as a tool in the whole situation. Would have felt bad for my other aunt, but TBH most of her anger was directed towards me. She did apologize days later. Should mention I had a few friends over as well witnessing this. Just super embarrassing for me, especially since I had zero interest in the ring. It is crazy how family can get like that over jewelry. My great grandmother had been married twice, and when I was little my grandma had the ring from the second marriage and my mom had the ring from the first marriage. When I was 12ish, my grandmother decided to pass the ring she had to my mom, and my mom gave the ring she had to me. My aunt, by marriage, she married my uncle, who had no kids, got absolutely mad that I got one of the rings instead of her. Mind you, I hadn't asked for it, didn't really want it, and wasn't aware of the political maneuvering going on. Apparently my grandmother had given my mom her ring precisely because she ultimately wanted both rings to pass to her granddaughter, me. But my aunt made such a big deal about how she hadn't been given one of the rings. Like, lady, this wasn't my decision. I didn't ask for this. I kept my ring, though. I have horrible handwriting. I have forever. No amount of intervention or practice has helped. When I was in 5th grade, my social studies teacher seemed to take a lot of pleasure in constantly reminding me of how awful my handwriting was. We used to have to bring out notebooks up for her to check our homework. I dreaded this so damn much. She would hold up my notebook so the whole class could laugh at my handwriting. I'm grown now, that was a long time ago, but I still hate to have handwrite anything that other people will see. I had a teacher who was obsessed with my handwriting too. I'm dyspraxic and until I was about 10 my handwriting looked like that of a 6-year-old. In that year of school we had to earn the right to graduate from writing in pencil to working with pen by improving our handwriting. She told me to write smaller, so I wrote smaller. She told me to write more even letters, so I wrote more evenly. It took too long, because it took real effort to do it, so I had to go faster, which made it untidy again. My finger joints also bent backwards, so it was a real struggle to hold a pencil. My mum got me some special pencil holders for hypermobile fingers to make it less painful, but she took them from me and threw them away. Now my writing was too small, so I wrote larger. Rinse and repeat. I was the last in my class to get a pen and only a week before the school year was up, and she made it clear that it was because I ran out of time, not because I deserved it. My handwriting actually improved a lot over the year, but I was disqualified because it took too much effort, apparently, so it was clear I wasn't practicing enough at home. Around this time I was incredibly depressed and stressed for unrelated reasons, and struggling to keep my temper, so in a very uncharacteristic move I asked what it was she wanted from me, because nothing I did was right, in front of the whole class. She replied, nothing, because I know wanting better from you would be a waste of time. She was like this the whole year at any opportunity she got. I need to wear dark glasses when looking at the whiteboard and the projector because it gave me migraines, and she tried repeatedly to take them off me until I suggested I bring a copy of the note from my optician that we have her to the headmaster. She refused to let me use left-handed scissors the school provided for each classroom, giving them instead to right-handed kids who just liked that they had different colored handles. To this day I'm not sure what it was I ever did to make her hate me so much. I was always polite, worked hard and got good grades, was a bit disorganized, and forgot my homework a few times, but that's hardly a reason to behave this way to a child. She's probably dead now. My first internship. I was on a team that did something with real estate on the corporate finance side. My dad got me the internship and basically forced me to take it. I was 20, had never taken a finance course or high-level business course, and had never had a white-collar job before. Coming into an office at a competitive place to work where everyone on my team is 10 plus years older than me. He'll vehemently deny that he forced me and blames me for freaking it up. The reality of it is that I basically said I wasn't ready, and he made me feel like absolute crap about myself until I changed my mind. I was 100% not ready for it and not interested in going into that field. I probably wouldn't have gotten the job even if my boss was a nice guy, but he wasn't. Dude was 35, 40 yo, and did not like me. Any attempt at small talk was denied aggressively. All questions were answered dismissively. Everyone else was really nice to me. It was my first office job. I was very proficient at Word/Excel for a college sophomore, but had never used Outlook, and he bullied me constantly for that. He would give me extremely vague instructions and absolutely no guidance, and force me to schedule meetings to ask questions. So learning how to do stuff took forever, because I would ask a question, get an answer, figure out how to utilize that answer, and then naturally have another question, and have to wait all day for him to be free. He would say, hey, consolidate X files for me, and then just walk away. And consolidating X files consisted of finding one of thousands of file paths on the server, finding another one in thousands in that file path, and then searching for a very specific type of legal document within those thousands of files. And then make me schedule a meeting to ask questions like, where are those? Or what makes XX compared to the Y documents that take all of 2 seconds to answer. Bear in mind, he was the head of a program that hadn't officially started yet, so his schedule wasn't exactly busy. I caught him smoking a black and mild and eating a burger on top of the parking garage during one of his client meetings once. He would give me nothing to do most of the time and rip on me for not doing anything. I would literally go around the cubicles asking for something to help with, do all of my co-workers' grunt work, and then have 4 hours between getting that done and my meeting with him to ask questions. And he'd come rip on me for not doing anything / not trying. It would taken days or weeks for me to go through every single file path instead of him just telling me during those 4 hours. And he'd rip on me for leaving at 5 PM after 5 hours of nothing to do. Sometimes he'd sit at his desk till 7. Just chilling on his iPhone, and I'd have to sit there staring at a blank screen because he'd stare at me if I took my phone out. During our 360 review process, my coworkers gave me an average score of 3.0 on a 0-4 scale. He gave me an average of 0.75. I was the leader of my team of interns for a charity drive. The other interns on my charity drive team were all on separate teams within the office, but we were paired together to be even with some of the larger teams in the office that had more interns. We were in second place out of 10 and had by far the smallest amount of highly compensated employees in our zone of the office, which makes a substantial difference. I thought I was doing a really good job. The team beating us had the highest amount of highly compensated employees in the office and were thousands of dollars ahead on the last day, so I figured, hey, whatever, we had a good run. Nope. I come in on the last day of the charity drive and this asshole has a janitor cart loaded with trays of breakfast tacos. I try to plead with him that this won't make the difference. I'll even pay him back for the tacos not to do this. Nope. He makes me go office to office, team to team selling tacos. My first interaction with 99% of the people I sold tacos to, people laughing at me and crap. I've been a dishwasher. I've been a busboy. I was a Jimmy John's driver. I was a pledge and got the crap hazed out of me. I have never ever felt so freaking degraded in my life. Probably would have quit if that wasn't a week or two from the end of the internship. On my last day I had conversations with everyone. Most of my coworkers said something along the lines of "We'll miss you, sorry your boss was a peen." And my boss basically ripped me apart. Told me that I should change majors and that this wasn't right for me. Said a ton of really hurtful crap with little to no constructive aspects. At the end of it all he says something along the lines of, "Well, we'll miss you and I hope you learned a lot." And I had enough. To preface this, I got the job through connections and my dad worked for the company and was very close with the head of our entire division. I'm not normally one to play this card 99% of the time, though. Do you know who my dad's card is? Incredibly cheap, beta, cringy, and usually unwarranted. I believe it was warranted here. Nobody at the internship knew who my dad was, and that was by design. I wanted to be treated without bias, to know who I could trust and where I stood. I responded with tears in my eyes, "Yeah, I had a great time. I can't wait to tell my dad about it." "Who's your dad?" "Oh, he did X really important thing for the company for a while, but he's retired now. He's really good friends with your boss's 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 boss." Dude goes white in the face and says, "Oh, I almost forgot your present." He goes and gets an extra company water bottle from his desk that he definitely just had sitting there. 180 change in his demeanor. He wants to be my best friend now. All of a sudden it's all smiles and chit chat and, "Well, if you ever come back you'll always have a place to stay." Frick you. He died in a car accident 5 days later, and I couldn't really say anything to the company about how much of an absolute peen and lazy employee he was due to the optics, which really frustrated me. I got frustrated just from reading about him.